Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, coming to you from a rather rainy Saratoga in upstate New York. We had an amazing time on Lake George yesterday. We rented a boat, and even your patriot professor went tubing, if you can believe it. My grip is still sore from that. I'll see if I can find a video. I'm sure someone on the boat caught me in one of my more embarrassing moments for sure. But we have to talk about the latest rumors that are swirling all over DC right now on impending retirements on the Supreme Court. If true, this is going to be absolutely huge, literally historic. Let's start with the huge win that the Supreme Court just delivered for President Trump. Yes, Trump got yet another massive win from the justices in a rather stunning 8-1 decision. I'll let you guess the one Supreme Court justice who dissented. I'll give you a hint. She has something to do with an auto pen. This decision is being called Trump's wrecking ball on the deep state. So in an 8-1 decision that sent shockwaves throughout DC, the Supreme Court overturned a lower court injunction that had blocked the federal government from moving forward with a Trump executive order that directed 19 federal departments to develop plans for large-scale layoffs. So the key with this EO is that it was going to basically decimate the deep state by a mass purge of federal employees throughout 19 departments. Now, because the state protects itself, with the courts basically playing the part of the immune system for the state, preventing any federal employee from ever being fired, a lower court stepped in and stopped the government from even planning the layoffs. Let that hit you. That's how ridiculous this lower court ruling was. They couldn't even think of laying off federal workers. Well, those days are now officially over. In an 8-1 ruling, the court sided once again with Trump. They completely reversed the lower court ruling, and they have authorized the planning process mandated by Trump's EO can now continue. As you may have guessed, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, Justice Autopen, was literally the only justice who dissented. Even the liberal Kagan, Sotomayor, voted with the conservative majority. Trump's plan to drastically downsize DC was so legally sound that even liberal justices couldn't argue against it. But Jackson? Autopen? She literally absolutely went nuclear in her dissent. She accused her own colleagues of having demonstrated what she called enthusiasm for greenlighting President Trump's legally dubious actions. That's what she wrote in her lone dissent. In other words, she's basically calling out the entire court, including her liberal colleagues, for being biased towards Trump, for basically greenlighting the Trump agenda. She's accusing particularly the conservative majority of fast-tracking Trump's agenda without proper deliberation. But the irony is that Sotomayor actually wrote a separate opinion, basically explaining the law to Jackson as if she were a fifth grader. She had to clarify that the executive order specifically directs agencies to plan reorganizations consistent with applicable law. I mean, when your fellow liberal justices are fact-checking you, I mean, what do you even say to that? And this is a repeatable occurrence. So this, I mean, for decades, federal workers have been practically impossible to fire, right? They've operated like an unelected shadow government, often denying the very officials voters elected to oversee them. So this order, we've already seen 20,000 probationary federal employees terminated. This Supreme Court ruling, gang, this opens the floodgates for what could be the largest reduction in federal workforce in modern history. I mean, we're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of positions eliminated. And of course, the key legal issue that Jackson completely missed is the question, does the president have the authority to restructure the executive branch? And the answer, according to eight Supreme Court justices, is a resounding yes. And that's precisely why it was Jackson herself and her dissent who said that this decision allows Trump to take a wrecking ball to the federal bureaucracies under his executive jurisdiction. Yeah, I voted for that. That's right. Now, this decision was handed down amidst growing rumors in the legal community and throughout D.C. that we're on the cusp of seeing 2 retirements from the court. And unfortunately, There are favorites, Justices Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas. And if that happens, this would be before the midterms. And a lot of it has to do with just the political importance of timing these retirements so as to ensure like-minded successors. So we saw this with Justice Anthony Kennedy. Well, for him, it wasn't so much a like-minded successor. He was a flip-flopping idiot. I mean, he was a legal ignoramus, but he was ironically appointed by Ronald Reagan, but ended up siding with the liberals most of the time. But he wanted continuity. He wanted to allow a Republican president to pick his successor, which I found rather interesting. And of course, Trump did. Trump has now appointed 3 justices. By contrast, liberals are still fuming over Ruth Bader Ginsburg's decision to remain on the court. She refused to step down during the Obama era when she could have been replaced by another radical leftist, and instead she was replaced by Amy Coney Barrett. So ironically, the one who gave the decisive vote for overturning Roe v. Wade, the Roe v. Wade decision that Ginsburg had long idolized, she became her replacement. Now, if Alito and Thomas are going to retire, the argument is they had better do it now while Trump's in power. And rumors are that they are considering doing just that. Now, of course, if that's the case, Trump will most likely use his unprecedented political power to push through appointees who are very, very conservative, reliably so, as Thomas and Alito have been. I also think, given the current state of the electoral map, that frankly, Republicans don't have a lot to worry about when it comes to control of the Senate in 2026. And increasingly, when it comes to control of the White House for the foreseeable future. Now, we talk about Pennsylvania's going red, it's going the way of Ohio, and Democrats simply cannot electorally win the presidency without Pennsylvania. So I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas and Alito actually decided to stick around, figuring that the Senate is safe for the GOP and that JD is most likely going to clobber whoever the Democrats nominate in 2028. It's a risk. It's a gamble. You never know. And we certainly don't want to find ourselves in the same situation that the liberals found themselves after Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So keep an eye on Thomas and Alito over the next few months, and we'll see what happens there. If they don't retire, interestingly, then that's an indicator that the Washington insiders believe the Senate and the White House are both relatively safe for the next several years. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments section down below. And as always, if you haven't already done so, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. God bless you.